Hey, good morning, my friends. It's Thursday, March 14th, 2024. I, of course, I'm Hammer with Originator Success here with your daily rate update, the only place on the web where you guys get to join me each and every day to chat about what's going on. Sorry about yesterday. I was in the middle of the 2020 Vision for Success Difference Maker Mastermind and the workshop, and I was at the front row and I couldn't duck out without being a pretty big distraction. So I couldn't get out of there to have my live video, but I didn't want to let you guys down. So we had to have a little fun and do it with the silent treatment. I hope you guys were willing to play along with me. So anyway, it's great to be back to normal. Great to be able to talk this morning. Remember, you can join me live each and every day, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag an hello friend, share us in the group. If you'd like to sign up for our written email lock advice to your inbox, we send one out each and every day weekday. It's www.ratelockadvice.com. Check out our text alerts, www.ratetextalerts.com. Find out how we can help get loans at Google, from Google and social media at originatorssuccess.com. And with all of that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and say hi to our live folk friends. Who's here this morning? Let's go ahead and say hello. Julie Lawrence and Michael Love. Good morning. Kyle Mazikas. Great to see you, sir. Scott Menser, Kenny Rivard. How are you? Give you all a hat tip. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure others will be trickling in and we'll say hello as they do. In the meantime, excuse me. Cigar I had yesterday is got me a little flummy this morning. So I know it's lovely, right? Mike Tebow, good morning, sir. All right. Unfortunately, got to tell you all, rate sheets look like they're going to be worse once again. Mortgage-backed securities taking quite a beating this morning. Let's go ahead and I'll show you guys the charts and we'll get there. Julie Lawrence, Mike Tebow, Lisa Bollinger, Megan Lindbergh. Good morning, all. So taking a look here, you see a nice big fat red candlestick here today. I warned y'all a couple days ago, this 50-day moving average, we tested it right here, this red line that you see. And I warned you that I did not think it was going to give us much support at all. It held up about as well as a cheap wet paper towel, broke right through. And this morning, even bigger losses on the day. The reason we're seeing those big losses this morning, strong retail sales data, strong PPI, producer price index data, jobless claims, unemployment basically fell for the week. All of this stuff, strong economic data, y'all. It's not good. And I got to tell you here, as I flip around on different headlines here, as we kind of take a look, producer prices jump, adding to signs of persisting inflation. We can look deeper. Things like both the core and broader measured exceed estimates for modest increases. That's not a good sign when it's both headline and core. The PPI, not nearly as big of a mover as the CPI, the core consumer price index. This is the producer price index. This is basically the price producers are paying. How much more are they paying for the goods before they pass that along to the consumer? Prices paid to producers rose in February by the most in 6 months, driven by higher fuel and food costs that add to evidence inflation remains elevated. Producer price index for final demand increased 0.6% from January. This stuff, not good. And this is really kind of the concern is right here. It was, let me see if they, where that line is. Here it is. Bank of America Corp strategists warn it would only take 2 officials to switch to 2 cuts versus 3 for the median dot to move higher, something they see as a spur to treasury yields. Benchmark 10-year yields already hover around 4.2 this morning. Actually, they are up to 4.25 already, 4.25 this morning. Not good. And well above where they ended last year. And if we take a look at this chart, right, let's look at this chart. Looking at the bond chart, the dot plot chart, rather, this is what the Fed members, where they think everything is going to end the year, right? And right now, is it basically the 4 and 3/4 mark? That's likely to push up here, which would actually push this to 5. All right, and that means that we wouldn't see the 3/4 of a point rate cut that we would be expecting. So right here, this is 5.25. If you're here, actually, this would be 4 3/4. This is 4.5. Sorry, so my numbers are off before. Let me clarify. 4.5. It's right above the number that it's at. 4.5 here. If you see a couple of those bump up here, that means 4 3/4. We're at 5 1/4. That means that the dot plot will start to reflect the Fed view of only 2 rate cuts this year, not 3. Now, let me go ahead and go back here so y'all can look at me. Why is this such a big deal? Because everything we have seen, all of it when rates were moving lower was on the idea that the Fed was going to have to cut at least 3 times, maybe more. Remember, there was a time in December where markets were basically pricing in the idea that the Fed would have to cut 6 times or 1.5 points. Now we're looking at maybe only 0.5 point. And everybody can sit and point out why it's, oh, the data this and there's data that. And, we can sit and say the data is rigged. It doesn't matter what we say. The bottom line is the data is continuing to come in strong. Labor data is coming in strong. Economic data is coming in strong. There's no, excuse me, there's no clear signs of any economic weakness that would require the Fed to need to start to cut rates and spur the economy. So I think that next week's meeting is not going to be all that efficient. I am definitely changing my lock stance, y'all. Sorry to be a little slow to the party, but just as we get this information, it is just getting worse and worse and worse. Repressures today is moderate. Again, bonds were already down by quite a bit. Let me go ahead and bring that chart back up and show you here. Mortgage-backed securities. I mean, look at this. We're continuing. I've seen it go 20 to 30, 30 to 38. Now, we're probably going to test this blue 25-day moving average, but the 25-day moving average is never a real moving average anyway. It's such a weak support level or resistance level. It doesn't usually strong. So I wouldn't be looking for that to give us a lot of support. I think we absolutely, break through that as we head down, getting closer to that Fed meeting. I think rates are going to creep up back where they're here in February. We got a really nice recovery that went on for a little bit of while as there was kind of markets adjusted. And then now we're starting to lose that ground. When we take a look at Fed futures, there's 99% expectation the Fed will leave rates the same next week. No change expected at all. When we get to May, it's gotten to be the same thing. We are up to remember, this was down to like at one point, I don't know if we compare if it's long enough back that we could see it, but I mean, it was 60% a month ago. It's 90 now expectation that we're going to see rates unchanged in May. And this will be the fifth straight meeting that the Fed will leave rates unchanged. That'll be the 6th straight meeting. June, it's still about a 60% expectation that we'll see a rate cut in June. However, if we see that a dot plot like this, if that moves after the meeting, if the market is spooked by Jerome Powell's answers on all this stuff, well, then that means we're going to see this number go up and this number go down. And it becomes, hey, maybe we don't see any rate cuts until the second half of the year and until July. And I think that that's very much on the table right now. Again, I don't like the direction it's going. I really was hoping we would see things be moving positive. However, we're just not seeing it. Also, even when we talk about revisions down and revisions lower and things on stuff, y'all, it's definitely there, but even those revisions aren't strong enough to warrant any real weakness and to show. That's the problem, right? We're seeing ridiculously high numbers for things and then they get revised lower. But even those revisions lower are still strong. They're still not showing a lot of economic weakness and certainly no reason on why we would see big moves. So Mike pointed out, what about the revisions down? Mike Moran pointed it out. Mike Thibault pointed it out. Good morning, Mr. Ron Siegel. You're late. You got a detention. That's all right. So basically get caught up. I'm just not liking the direction things are going, Ron. And at this point, I don't know that I want to be floating anything closing in the next month into next week's Fed meeting. I don't think it's going to, I wrote lock. I'm so struggling to with the idea that the meeting, it could be good. I want it to be good. I just don't know that it would be good. So depending on willingness to gamble, I think we're going to continue to lose ground as we head into that meeting. I've been saying that, and let me flip the other stuff back on here. When I say 15 to 30 days to lock, consider locking and play it out in your mind. Talk about it with the consumer. I mean, we're still below 7 at the moment, even with this morning's weakness. This will, but it's how much higher are we likely to push? Probably 7.25. But if that meeting comes in and they don't like what the Fed says, and if we get a dot plot at 2, which I think could happen at this point. I mean, again, look at this dot plot. We only need a couple of these dots to bounce here, and then that becomes the new median. And if more than a couple, what if some of these ones, these very dovish members really start to move higher because of the data that we're seeing? It's going to be bad. It's just not there. I hate giving you this advice about locking anything closing, especially heading into that Fed meeting. But there's a lot of risk now. It's just not good. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments about what you think about how you're feeling on this. I feel like the ice has gotten very, very thin that we're standing on. The jobless claims not helping us, retail data not helping us. What comes out tomorrow? Let me take a look here real quick on the economic calendar. I think we get consumer sentiment tomorrow. We've got a couple of different things going on tomorrow. We got consumer sentiment. We've got Fed manufacturing, New York Fed manufacturing. Yeah. So I think we're going to continue to see things and heading into next week. I'm going to show you guys the screens for a minute. We'll go back to that. I think we're going to see bonds, mortgage-backed securities continue to drop down and get back into this range in the high 98s, low 99, that high 98 area. I think we're going to see, look at this drop that we've seen here, and I think it's going to continue. So we had a really nice, this took about 10 days to improve. And I think after the Fed meeting, we're going to be back down here. It's just, there's no reason that the Fed is going to be optimistic of cutting rates anytime soon. Not with the current inflation data that we're getting, not current economic data that we're getting. There's no pressure on the Fed to have to cut rates. We're looking at possibly in June, but I think that June could go the way of March and May, and we could see basically just a whole thing here, 99% that we're going to stay the same, 94% that we're going to stay the same. And I think June is going to be there soon too. I think after the Fed meeting and the Fed press conference, I think there's a really good shot that markets start to lose hope of a June cut and look for something, 2 cuts later in the year. And, that might be where we go. And if we do lean that way, well, rates are going to creep higher. They're not going to jump in huge numbers, but they are going to creep higher is the unfortunate thing. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Let's love to hear what you guys have to say on it. Julie said, I agree. Happy I locked everyone Tuesday. Didn't hit right away Wednesday, so I locked my new ones in, but I'm not floating anything getting burned or burning my customers. I couldn't blame you on this one. It's just not liking the vibe we got going on here. Mike, didn't they just sell a large number of 30-year bonds yesterday too? Yeah, but that's the selling of treasuries, the market's still absorbing that, et cetera, et cetera. That's not really going to help rates at all. Or Sam says, lock them if you got them. I'm now becoming concerned on June closings with construction. The thing, remember something though, Sam, closings in June, if they think that we're going to have rate cuts July or September, we're going to see rates that are improved in June, or, as we get closer to June, as we get into May. So I don't think you have to worry about ones that are as far off. The farther off they are, I think they'll see things continue to come back down. I'm more worried about the window of the next 6 weeks or so. I think we see rates creep up higher in the next 6 weeks before they can fall back down again. Very similar. Let me show the charts over here. Very similar to what we saw going on from January into February. February rates went up higher, and then they fall back down again. I think we're just in for another cycle like that. If we take a look here, we saw it where we were up at this level up in heading into February. We saw nice January numbers here. February we lost ground, and then 6 weeks later we improved again. I think we're going to see another one of these little happy smiley face shapes where it drops down and comes back up. I think we're going to see it drop down and come back up, and it's going to take. That's what the tea leaves show, based on what we're seeing with headlines, right, and what we're seeing with sentiment, and kind of here, bond traders prep for dot plot with 3 cuts in question. Median Fed forecast last showed 75 bips. Long run rate may also be under scrutiny amid rising debt. After dialing back their expectations for a 2024 Fed Reserve interest rate cut substantially since the start of the year, bond traders on Wednesday will take their next cue when policymakers release their own updated projections for the benchmark. Coming on the heels of consumer producer price reports warning of persistently high inflation, there's a lot riding for the Treasuries market from the Fed's new so-called dot plot. The median for policymakers in December showed 3/4 point rate reductions. Derivatives contracts showed slightly more, priced in as of Thursday. The question is whether they'll maintain or potentially scale it back in the wake of price increases that remain well above their 2% inflation target. And I think what's going to happen is at his press conference, he's going to be kind of putting out that message that, hey, we're more willing. He said this before. We're more willing to hold off on rate cuts and see the economy, act late and see the economy start to lose ground rather than cut rates too early. There's no reason to expect the Fed to cut rates. The good news is there's no reason right now to expect the Fed to go back to a hike, which could happen. I mean, that would be really bad, but we're not there yet. But there's also no reason to see them cut rates, and that's why we're not likely to see rates improvements from here. Being shown rates from late February, yeah. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap it up, y'all. You guys have a fantastic day. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I just don't like the direction things are headed. We're not getting the data that we need. Even with the revisions, it's not enough. And I'm starting to lose any kind of hope that next week's Fed meeting is going to help us out. Normally, I really like floating into Fed meetings because it gives us the opportunity to react. When I look at how much things could improve, well, I don't know. So I'll talk more about that tomorrow. If you guys want to join me, then we'll talk about it. And I'll talk about how much I think we could see improvement if the Fed meeting goes our way. We'll really start to dissect that Fed meeting a little bit more tomorrow. I'll be back in my office. I'm driving back today from Atlanta. So anyway, and why am I in Atlanta here? Again, we were at the 2020 Vision for Success Coaching Difference Makers event. It was a lot of fun. I did enjoy my little speaking gig there, what we talked about. So a lot of great speakers, awesome content. And I can be critical of content. I can be critical of some of these events and what's said at them. So I think this one is there. Mike said, I don't think rates are going to be hiked. Mike, I don't think rates are going to be hiked either. The problem is that there's no reason to see them at all get cut, which means mortgage rates aren't going to fall. Everything's status quo. We see rates between 6 3/4 and 7 1/4 if we stay in that range. And that's kind of where we're at. And it's likely we see things creep back up to the higher end of the range and push up into that, the low sevens, which means with your LLPAs and everything else, 7.5, 7 3/4 on loans. So that's the problem. I don't think we're going to see that and get any improvement either. So, all right, my friends, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Make it a great one. Bye-bye.